Kaizen Podcast.
All right, Greg, I'm very excited today. We're going to follow up on our last podcast about whether you should be able to move opportunities to on hold. And we're going to talk specifically about when should we be creating opportunities. My thesis is that it's when you have a meeting with a person who could buy. It sounds like you have a completely different theory on this, so I'm really eager to debate.
So I'm going to give the controversial opinion here. And to preface this, the reason that I feel this way is because my background is in analytics. And so I want to understand, what does the sales cycle, the entire sales cycle look like from start to finish,
Okay.
And everything that happens along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually a strong believer that an opportunity represents your sales process and your sales cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So an opportunity should be created as soon as you take ownership of the account.
Oh, interesting. So if I get an account, there's an opportunity that I create in my name that I'm managing towards conclusion.
Correct. So when I've done this in the past, stage 1 will be prospecting.
Wow.
And then stage 2 would be meeting set, stage 3 completed, and so on and so forth. But by doing that, I can associate activities to opportunities. So I can, A, you get your full sales cycle, but B, you then know on average, how many touches does it take us to set an opportunity?
Oh man, this is really starting to resonate. I kind of like this. I feel like I had not thought about this whole concept at all. So you're saying each opportunity is like an attempt to go through the sales process, the sales mode.
Correct.
Oh man. So I start with an opportunity at prospecting. So I can see how many activities have been sent while the opportunity was in prospecting. Then I can see they're in meeting set. I can see, did they show up or not? Walk me through how you tend to think about stages and what that looks like.
Yeah. So the other thing I do is I like to define stages using verbs. So it's like an action that has happened.
Uh-huh.
And so instead of just saying meeting set, most companies will say demo stage. I will say demo completed. And so it moves to that stage when the demo is completed.
Okay.
It's kind of up to you whether the stage name should represent the end of a stage or the beginning of a stage.
Okay.
So I personally like end. I don't think it really matters. So I'll say demo, the stage will be demo completed.
Yep.
So it enters that stage when the demo's been completed. So I know anything in demo completed, they are now going back and forth trying to get that sale.
Makes sense.
So start to finish, stage 1 will be prospecting. Stage 2 will be meeting set. Step 3 will be meeting completed or discovery completed, depending on your terminology.
Yep.
Step 4 would be demo completed. So sometimes on the first call you actually do a demo, you can move it straight to there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll kind of have negotiations started, contracts sent, things like that towards the end. And then also very important, I have a stage called closed no response. So that way, if it's in your prospecting phase and you can never actually get a hold of them, it does not affect your close loss metrics.
Because you separate that close stage completely out. Because if they just never even responded, you want to look at those separately from I lost it because a competitor took it.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting. You wouldn't just have a close loss reason of that?
So the reason you could do that, but then it just gets annoying from an analytics perspective because what ends up happening is your win rate is, total 1 over total loss plus 1, but you want to pull out this one specific loss reason.
Right.
I'd rather just take that out.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
but you totally could do that.
Yeah. So you said negotiation agreement sent. Those were the kind of stages that you have. What's beyond agreement sent, like agree or signed or close one?
It depends on the business that we're working with, but it'll either be implementation started or close one or activation, whatever. It depends on how you actually interact with the product.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So creation of opportunity. How do you actually go about tracking? I typically use stage history to kind of track what's the likelihood a stage 1 moves to stage 2, 2 to 3, et cetera. And you can kind of see a funnel throughout the opportunity life cycle. How do you go about building reports for customers showing this is, of all accounts that you've reached out to, this is your demo rate or whatever you want to think about it? How do you build those types of reports for them?
So for every stage, we have a stage tracker, huge process builder, which calculates whenever it moves into a stage, it calculates the date, stamps the date. And then from there, you can get how many days it's been in each stage on average.
Yep.
And then in your funnel reporting, you can then say, for everything where demo completed date is not blank, show me how many are lost and how many are won and how many are in pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to think about situations in which this won't work so that I can challenge you a little bit. So if I have an account and I want to start prospecting into it, I have this opportunity. Any new activities under that account will show up under the opportunity, so I can track that there. What about situations where I'm reaching out to multiple divisions under one account? Would you create multiple opportunities and tie contacts to them right away? Or how do you think about that?
I think that that's pretty rare, but in those cases where you're reaching out to different divisions, that big of a company, I think you would generally have multiple accounts. But if not, I would probably just prefer one opportunity until you know kind of where your opportunity is.
Is your expectation that reps would be adding contacts to the opportunities or beginning outreach to them?
That's a good question. It really depends. Ideally, if you have the resources, your analytics team or you have a program that automatically does all this. Usually have had teams to write programs to automatically associate tasks with opportunities. There's actually a tool called Truly Wireless that does this for you, where it'll actually stamp on the call task, what stage is the opportunity in. It'll tie tasks to opportunities. But generally speaking, I would generally try to automate that. So they definitely do not want reps filling that out.
So one of the things a point that I made was, it's great because you can see how many activities it took to get a meeting set, right? Like if I emailed 10 people one time, that's 10 activities to get my very first meeting. Like I kind of implied that you could do that. Is that something you actually do, or did I take it a step further than you tend to work with customers?
No, that is definitely something we do. And I mean, I worked with a company once where we did this, and it was really interesting. So the two most successful SDRs, one of them was just a workhorse and would send 10 to 12 meetings per 10 to 12 touches to get a meeting. And so it was just hammering the phones, hammering email. And then the second most best SDR was actually somebody who had like an 80% success rate in getting a meeting from a call or email. And so from there, you can kind of see they have very different sales styles, right? So she would do tons of research and be really thoughtful about who she reached out to.
Yeah.
This guy would just kind of carpet bomb everyone, which is fine. Got the job done. But it's actually really interesting to be able to see this. It's really telling on how your team works. And you can start to, if you look at what successful people are doing, you can kind of help to set expectations to the rest of the team of hey, people that hit quota have to make 6 calls to an account before they set a discovery call. So don't get discouraged after call 2.
When a company, I actually really like this. I might throw away my method now. Okay, so I get an account. I immediately create an opportunity. I begin prospecting. Let's assume all my activities are flowing into the opportunity. Let's pretend that all the contacts that I'm reaching out to are being added to the opportunity as well. So that's all synced cleanly. I can track how many activities had happened before I got to first response or first demo or whatever. You got to write custom code for that, right? Before you can move it to demo set or whatever, you've got to calculate the number of activities tied to that opportunity. Have you just written code, or do you use Process Builder or Flows, or how have you done that in the past?
You can do either. So you can do it via Flow. You can do it via Apex. You can also do it kind of if you use Redshift or Snowflake. It's a pretty simple SQL aggregation.
Okay.
So there's plenty of ways to do that. But generally, if you have someone who does BI or analytics, they'll be able to do that for you.
Got you. So I move the deal through the process. What if a company says, no way, this isn't going to work? But it's for example, let's say you sell to multiple departments within a single company. I could sell to sales or customer success. Let's just say I'm reaching out to sales and customer success. I only have one op, right? In your mind?
Correct. Yeah.
So let's say sales goes, no way, we're not going to buy after the demo is completed. And so you're continuing to prospect into that CS team. Do you think that should be a brand new opportunity, or how do you recommend handle those?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're reaching out to both simultaneously, then it's fine. Just keep the same opportunity. It's no different than when you have a call with someone and that person's like, hey, this sounds great. I'm going to pass you off to someone.
Sure. Yeah.
If it's not like that, right, and it's actually just you have to start from scratch, then I would probably prefer to close out the opportunity.
My thought is almost every team that you could sell to internally, and I feel like I should have an opportunity for CS and an opportunity for sales in this example. And the contacts under CS should be under the CS op and sales under the sales op, so that I can actually see when I'm selling to sales, this is actually how many activities it took to get a hold of sales. Because if you're combining sales and CS, maybe I'm getting way too in the weeds, but companies that want to be pretty analytical about this is sales actually takes 7 emails to get through, CS takes 4. You can't know that if you're combining everything.
Correct. If you want that level of detail, then you should definitely do that. You should have a different opportunity for each department or each potential buying group.
Yeah, I like this a lot because a lot of companies I've talked to in the past, they're I want to track a lead, the percentage that convert into contacts, percentage that move into opportunities, the percentage that move to 10%, et cetera. And it's typically very hard to do, mostly because there can be situations where opportunities move up and back down to 0%, and then you got to generate a new opportunity. Like, it's not clear how you can build a funnel where you tie one lead all the way through to a deal, because a lead or contact may say no, and then you generate a brand new opportunity when they say yes down the road. Like, you can re-engage people. And so it feels like every attempt at outreaching to a company should almost be its own opportunity. Then you can easily build a funnel because you're tracking it all the way through, from the very first message going out all the way through to a deal closing. Where if you're trying to tie leads to contacts and going through that whole process, you're trying to track like most recent first activity date or something like that. There hasn't been a sexy way to do it. This feels like the best way.
Yeah. So the other kind of component of this is, if you structure your Salesforce instance like this, you also don't use leads, because everything in terms of like sales cycle, deal progression, all your funnel metrics all happen on the opportunity.
So it's very heavy account-based marketing kind of method where like we're reaching out to a company, not just a person who is a lead in our CRM.
Correct. Yeah.
I like that a lot. What have you seen as like pitfalls of doing that? Or have you ever seen anything that like doesn't jive well? Because like when I've always tried to build funnels for customers, it's always painful because I want the lead conversion process tied in. So that's always been a pitfall for me. Have you seen any like hiccups or problems with kind of going down this route?
Generally, the biggest problem occurs if you are not a very operationally strong company, because this requires, when you close things, you have to actually put like a real reason.
Yes.
If you're talking to someone, you have to actually adjust the stages. If you're one of those companies where you can tell when leads are DQ'd just by if it's been 100 days since someone emailed them, like this is not a great thing for you, because it does require a lot of good Salesforce hygiene.
Mm-hmm. Do you automate things like if a person responds, you have an incoming email from that prospect that it moves the stage to this, or if a calendar invite is sent, then it moves it to demo book? Do you go that far? Or do you require that reps are manually doing that?
So it depends on the level of automation that people want. Generally, it's pretty easy to automate if you get an incoming that's not like an out of office. Move it from kind of attempting to connect to like an active contact type thing.
Yeah.
But it's pretty hard to. I don't super trust the moving it to like demo scheduled or discovery call scheduled or demo completed.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And so that kind of stuff is where this falls apart if people are not continuously updating.
Yeah, you could use something like Calendly, where if a person books time with Calendly, I'm sure you could use Zapier or something like that to send that to Salesforce, or parse some of the Calendly message to Salesforce to just like automatically move that opportunity to the next stage. That does create challenges with what if you have multiple opportunities per account, you might hit some pitfalls there, but it feels like it could be automated to some extent.
Yes, there are definitely possibilities. I think it's a matter, this is kind of a different problem, but if you automate too much, you kind of run into this problem where reps just become out of practice with doing any Salesforce updating.
Yeah.
That's probably not what you want.
Yeah.
But yes, there are definitely workarounds to be able to kind of automate this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So my initial thesis was create an opportunity when a person agrees to meet with you. Your thesis is create an opportunity when you want to begin outreach to a company. Have you ever seen any other? I guess one of the most common ones is people only create opportunities when there's a potential for them to buy, meaning they've identified BANT and they're actually doing a proper review. Have you seen that a lot, or do you typically see, where do you see companies falling on the spectrum of when to create opportunities?
It's either when the initial meeting is set or when the initial meeting has occurred and they are qualified.
So my idea of doing it when when a person agrees to a meeting, that's too soon from what you typically see?
I would say probably it's like 50-50 in terms of what I see between the initial meeting getting set or the account being qualified. The problem with the latter is if you're not creating an opportunity till the rep has already qualified it, everything before that's happening on the lead generally.
Yes. And
which is like such a nightmare.
Yeah, I think the reason that I lean towards that is my background of being sales development rep and then managing them is I want to quantify what they're producing. And typically I want to know how many meetings did you book? That's what most SDRs are kind of comped on. I don't like, and we should have another podcast about how should SDRs be compensated, but my thought is you should be compensated for what you can control, and that's a meeting booked. Like I can't guarantee that the people want to buy or that they have budget for this, but I can tell you that a person agreed to meet and they meet these specific criteria for like their role and title. And typically I always look at how many opportunities were generated by SDRs over a given time frame. Therefore, that's your compensation based on whatever MBOs are. So that's, I think, maybe my bias towards leaning towards ops generated rather than it's just as simple to say how many ops hit stage X, which was meeting scheduled. That's the exact same process under your method.
Yes. Yeah.
I kind of like that a lot. It solves a lot of the problems that I've run into with customers of wanting to understand the life cycle of outreach to a given company, to understand, given an account that I touch, what's the likelihood I get a deal out of it? or what's a likelihood I get a meeting or likelihood I get an agreement in their hand. But you can't track that in my old way. Man, learning a lot here. Anything else?
Whoa, man, did I change your mind?
I would say you changed my mind. This feels like a far superior one. I'm pretty gut reaction on a lot of things. It feels, I can't see any major challenges other than the reaching out to multiple departments, but I'm big on discipline around operations. So I think that can work. I would almost want to classify contacts as like their CS or their sales in that one example that I have. And upon them receiving an email, they should be associated with a proper sales or CS opportunity. Like I would want to automatically create opportunity contact roles for that contact so that no contacts are left out of this whole outreach engagement process. That would be a thing that I would want to do. There could be pitfalls there, but I'm big on like, we should classify contacts, we should classify ops like in a very specific way so that we can report on them in the future. So I'm bought in, man. I want to do this. I'm going to start like doing this internally going forward. So yeah. Anything else in terms of opportunity creation that I maybe missed?
Actually, yeah, no. I think we're good.
Cool. Well, you crushed it, man. This is a great one. Thanks for changing my mind.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
All right, later.